one of the things that was interesting that came out of our first conversation on your podcast was that it's striking to me that within Chinese medicine, within TCM, there is this preference or this really appreciation, this reverence for animal foods, and that these foods are thought of as nourishing and the organs are thought of as nourishing. And this is essentially one of the places where the concept of like helps like, or like cures like, comes from. And anyone that's followed
Yep.
me and knows about Heart and Soil and what we do with desiccated organs has heard us talk about like helps like. And this is something that you've
Right.
talked about as well too, that is it true that in Chinese medicine, you said this in the first podcast we did, if you go into an apothecary, they'll have herbs and they'll have organs, they'll have glandulars, that this thousands of year old system of medicine, which is pretty interesting historically, used glandulars, right? Would they use liver for somebody with a liver problem, or heart for somebody with a heart problem in TCM?
Always, always. If somebody comes in, let's talk about like a blood deficiency,
Right.
anemia, which is a major, in fact, the amount of women today, especially, and some men that are struggling with low iron, low B12, who are missing blood building nutrients, it's an epidemic. I mean, it is huge, huge proportions. So that being said, if you went into an ancient apothecary or saw an ancient practitioner, they would prescribe you probably liver and heart and maybe spleen. They would say, consume this. And then they would also recommend probably dong quai, peony, and some astragalus. So, but those are the things they're going to prescribe and give people. And the one would be an herbal tincture. And to your point, I do want to mention this. I think when it comes to the plant consumption, I think that, my take is it's all about proper preparation. In Chinese medicine, people are not eating astragalus. They're not eating dong quai. They are putting it in water. They are simmering it and only consuming the serum soluble part of that plant. And if somebody is going to eat a grain throughout history, the way they did that is they soaked it and let it dry out in the sun. And then they went through a process of fermentation to where they got it to the point through several day process to where where you killed off the majority of those enzyme inhibitors and phytates and everything else, to where it's now more easily absorbable. And the same goes for plants. This shocks people. Chinese medicine rarely recommends a raw plant. Rarely. Almost every time
They're toxic.
Yeah, they call it one pot. They said, okay, when you eat food, it's best to, like a plant, it's best to put it in a pot. And this is actually a principle of food combining, but they'll say, chicken soup is great. They'll say, take broth, take chicken, take liver, take the different parts of the animal, the carcass, put it in a pot, add in some carrots, some parsley, some onions, let it cook overnight. And then you can consume it, because they also believe that your body has to produce different enzymes to break down meat than it does fruit, than it does vegetables. But if you cook it in a pot overnight, their mentality was it becomes more one. And so your body is sort of getting all of the same thing at one time, anyways, that was part of their philosophy. But all that being said, they're very, very cognizant of the toxicity of plants, which is why they go through such a thorough process of processing or preparing a food for consumption.